Alright, hey guys, today's our first podcast for the NeuroSpillz series about neuroscience. I'm Arnav Singh.
And I'm Arif Prathari.
And today we're going to be starting off with the brain's ability to adapt. So, what if I told you that the brain was never truly fixed? And even if you're 70, you could be addicted to nicotine or recovering from trauma that happened, let's say, like 20 years ago. Today, we're going to be discussing that concept. So do you think that everyone can rewire their brain in like a similar way?
Well, I've heard of it in like a lot of movies and stuff. Like the guy falls down from a building and his head just like completely resets and like he's like, oh, what happened? Where am I? And then he has to learn everything all over again. Is that true or not? Because I'm not really sure about how that works.
Yeah, and I mean, when you get injured to like a really certain point, see that it goes onto our body as well. Like when we get injured, it takes time to fix. Like if I fall and I scrape my knee, it's gonna take like a few days, or maybe even a week or two to fix, right? Yeah. So let's say, but your brain's very sensitive as well. So these wounds could sometimes they could be like temporary, like some small comas. Like people when they hit their head too hard, let's say they fall off a roof, they hit their head at a certain angle, they can go into a coma for like 3 to 4 days. But like if it's like something a little more serious, then it could last a while, or it might even result to like their death. So yeah, rewiring your brain the same way is really unique. I'm not sure if it's really possible because each human is like very different for each other, but in a perfect world maybe it could be possible.
So like, are you saying the limits of neuroplasticity like vary from person to person?
They vary from person to person. They also vary from experience to experience, because the neuroplasticity of someone staying in like a stable home and like having like very casual experiences all throughout their life is going to be very different from someone who's experienced like lots of things. Like someone who's in the royal family would like have less like neuroplasticity limits in their brain compared to someone who's been like comparatively living out in the wild for their entire life. So they do vary, and yeah.
So are you saying like it varies from like adults to like children? Because like how when you're like a kid, you can like if you like learn a language, like when you're spoken to in a language, it's just like immediately gets wired into your brain. But like as an adult, like let's say some people speak to me in French when I'm a kid. Like for 1 year, if people just kept on speaking French to me when I'm a kid, I would probably like understand it and speak it fluently. But like as an adult, when people do that to me, if people did that to me, or like as a teen like I am right now, I'd just be like, what is happening? Like it takes people like as an adult, it takes them years to learn language, as opposed to a kid where it would just take like 1 or 2 years because it like ingrains into their brain very quickly. So you're saying it like varies on age too?
When you're younger, your body's still developing in general, right? Like as you said, when you were a kid, let's say ages 4 or through like 6, okay? So at that time, your entire body's developing. It's like your first like big stage. It's like when you go from like crawling to walking to running, and that's happening with your brain too. Your brain's slowly processing more information. Like as a child, even if you did do a lot of complex stuff, it must be difficult for your brain to adapt to it. But over time, as like a child, when your brain is still developing, it can like grasp more information, right? Because as a child, we learn how to speak, we learn what objects are, right? But when you do it at like an older age, it's more difficult, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, do you think like the education that like we receive is like, cause like, can you say like education like impacts the way our brain is wired? Because like I've heard that like in a country like Finland, they say they have like the best education in the world because they have like a very applied education that interests kids more. Like for example, like 6th graders, I've heard they like have this like program where they like make a mock city and they like make the kids like work fake jobs or something for like 1 day. And like all the kids have to prepare for their role, and like it gives them like an insight into what their life would be like when they grow up if they chose a certain career path. So are you saying like, so do you think like education like as a whole impacts how our brain like develops?
Yeah, it really does, because like you said, kids in Finland, they get to experience like what jobs could be like in the future. Over in the US, I believe our study system is very questionable, because we all sit in a chair all day, because we are still like consuming information that we will need for our lives later in the future. But is that the right way to give the information? I don't think so. Me personally, I believe that we should have like hands-on activities for like, and instead of having classes like English, math, science, we should have like more sectors to it, because like children have like more chance to explore what they're doing.
Yeah, but like, I'd say the U.S. education system is also very applied because like, for like science and everything, we do like a lot of hands-on work, like experiments and stuff. Like I used to study in India, and like over there, they used to just make us memorize like everything. Like you just memorize everything and you pass the test. And like I don't really remember anything I learned there because I didn't really enjoy memorizing. But like over here, like when I go to school here, I can understand everything and it sticks in my head. So like I would say that the U.S. does have like a good like application towards stuff too.
This also goes back to like neuroplasticity, how your brain like adapts to different places. Like you were in India, your brain had to memorize everything,
Yeah.
and it didn't want to do that. But when you moved here, it was a little more free.
Yeah.
It would be much more different from like you said, a person in a Finnish school coming here. He would also feel like a negative aspect,
Yeah.
right? But like as you're saying, the U.S. school system, like compared to me, I lived in India for 4 years only, so all of my like education, mainly starting kindergarten, has been done in the USA. So I mean, they give you hands-on experience, but they don't really give you a lot of, like freedom to do what you're doing. They give you like basic science classes, but like they don't go into too much detail. I think you have to like do a lot of extra to like consume that knowledge.
So from like what we're both saying, do you think it can be concluded that like applied education that's like applied to like how real life works is like the best way to like wire your brain, as they say?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. But see, like in schools, we also learn like math, science. So these things, it's like we're learning like the basics in school, right? Like if anyone has to go out to like, let's say, make an app, they need to know like how like basic, coding and all that works. They might not like directly use it while they're like playing the game or whatever, but it's like very like necessary. But like other classes aren't like as impactful towards. But it really varies from like class to class, school to school. Because there's also like a school I heard in California where they like there's a guy and he has like slides in his school, and overall makes school life enjoyable. 'Cause I know a lot of people here don't look forward to going to school, but I've heard reports from like people in the school in California where they actually enjoy. So, to change the topic. So, what else do you think is interesting that we could discuss?
Like, I would like to discuss like, how do you think like addiction can impact our brain like, as a whole?
As a whole, all right. So, when you get addicted, it's like you said, it has to do with our brain. It's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, right?
Yeah.
Because your body, like let's say alcohol addiction, your body doesn't necessarily require alcohol. It just has your brain tricked to the point where your brain thinks you need alcohol, which can lead to like a lots of symptoms like what do you call it, like schizophrenia, right? So not schizophrenia.
It's like relapse and addiction.
Yeah, like relapse and addictions, right? So it's more of a mental thing. So if you really get addicted, then it's just your brain that keeps telling your body that you need this, you need this, you need this, and it causes you to like go in downward spiral. But so it like makes like negative connections of like the neurons in your brain, which like automatically can end up getting you in a really bad situation, like nicotine addictions, where people constantly require like energy from like pleasure from like other external sources, right?
Like I've heard that like I always hear like people like personally in my school like complaining, oh, why is the drinking age 21? Like it's so stupid. We're like we gotta make it 18 so like in college we can enjoy and all that. We're adults. You can like own a gun at 18, but you can't like drink or something. But I think that's like not a very like good argument because like first of all our frontal lobe isn't fully developed by the age of like 18, and that's what we use to make our primary decisions. So when we drink alcohol, it like affects our frontal lobe. It affects the development of our frontal lobe. So like by doing that, like if we keep on drinking alcohol, our addiction just spirals and it makes it worse and worse and worse. Because since we're hindering the development of our frontal lobe, we can't make the decision. We get more addicted and we just end up going in a downward spiral. And when we get addicted, it just affects our brain because like we don't function as normal people, right? We like we like always like just like
Our brain's constantly
yeah,
thinking
like
about
if it gets away from us, we get all those withdrawal symptoms like vomiting and all of that, and like we can like even die. So like I don't. It's like that's why I just don't see like point in the argument that the drinking age should be 18.
Yeah. So, like you said, your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed while you're 18. It develops at like 25, right? And like, except even the frontal lobe, your entire brain is like a whole system. There might be separate parts, but they're all connected and intertwined with each other. So it also affects like the way you think, and like it also affects your memories. Like you don't want to like go back and think, damn, I used to like be really addicted back in, let's say, college, right? And we really don't want that. So, but there is like we could possibly come up with a solution to this problem, which has to do with reconfiguring the brain, which may or may not be moral to a lot of people. So,
is that like really possible though? Like, how can you just like rewire your brain? Let's say I'm like 18 and like I've learned all of these values and I've learned all of this while growing up. How can I just like rewire that and completely fix it? Like, is that like
there's no complete fix or anything that's been completely proven yet, but with the powers of the new and upcoming Neuralink, we could see. So basically, the Neuralink it gets it gets signals. So when you implant it in like your cortex, right?
yeah?
So every time, so a neuron, it's either on or off, right? So if it's on, let's say it brings like a, and if it's off, it brings a 0. So every time one neuron functions, we could like get that, and they're all like constantly like functioning with each other, so they're all connected. But what happens is, let's say I pick up a water bottle, then one neuron is saying like drink the water, and other one's like so pick it up. So each and every action you do, speaking, moving your hands, even sleeping, everything is constantly working. So technically, maybe okay. So theoretically, we should be able to like, after a certain point, after a lot of data, and it also varies from brain to brain as well. But if we're doing only one person, we could use like the strands of the Neuralink, implant it into the brain, and potentially figure out which neurons like are activated when you are doing like let's say drinking. What neurons are activated, right? So from there, we could try to like possibly
Curb the addiction.
Yeah, exactly. We could cut off like the connection between those neurons, which there's like a lot of it's fairly newly discovered. We haven't really looked into it a lot.
Wouldn't you say that like it's kind of unethical? Like I understand the Neuralink, like based off of what you've told me, it's like meant for the good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if these like companies or whoever's making it like end up misusing it to like control us?
That's a really possibility. It's definitely possible. I'm wondering, people probably already think of it using Neuralink. There's like infinite powers, because you could like right now it's only being used for people that have like disabilities, right?
Yeah.
They could like connect a Neuralink. They could like put the Bluetooth into a computer into like a bionic arm, and you could basically function an unmovable arm with your brain.
But that's, wouldn't you say that's at the cost of your brain's freedom? Because let's say they misuse it, like it's just like they might be creating like an army of just people to do all their bidding. You don't really know that.
I mean, see, it's a really complex process, because the straight figure goes from the neuron so currently what we've done so far, it goes from the neuron to the computer that tracks what neurons activate while doing what task, right? But that takes a really like strong computer to figure all that out, right? And we don't really have access to, there's not like really easy, like we have really easy access to like normal computers, but like those supercomputers are only available in like really like high-end laboratories, right? So this is not common yet, but it could be unethical, but at the same time it would make it like much more complex if it was like used for unethical causes. But the world is getting much more advanced.
Based off of everything we've talked about, you can say that like there are ways to like induce like neuroplasticity to like change the way our like brain like thinks, right? Like to some extent, not to like a full extent.
Yes.
But like, so like, what do you think are some ways like we can boost like the plasticity of our brain?
So you mean like boost the adaptation skills of our brain, I guess you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, only way I can think of physically is to like just go have more experiences, because like the more you experience, like the more connections your brain can make to other things, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like try new things, because like I've never, like last summer I've never like, let's say, been on a jet ski, right? And when I first went on a jet ski, it like gave me like a new experience that probably opened up like a new way of like what's possible in my brain, right? So I think more experiences cause like more like chances for neuroplasticity to occur in your brain.
Are there like any daily like besides like just seeking new experiences? Are there any daily habits like like through discipline and stuff that we can implement into our routine? Like,
I'm not sure about that. It's a very hard question. I'm not sure if I can answer that, because neuroplasticity, it's like the change in adaptation in your brain. And if you're just doing your daily routine, I mean, if you do your daily routine like let's say you're like a lazy person, you wake up at 10 and you go to sleep at like 1 a.m., right? If you like try your best and like let's say you wake up like at 6 a.m. and you do your like daily schedule the way it's actually meant to be, you could refigure your brain into like possibly doing that. It would open up a new way of thinking too, but it depends like the way you do.
Yeah, well, this has been like a very informative session. Like we talked about like neuroplasticity and like how addiction affects, but like I still kind of want to talk more about addiction, but like we're like running out of time. So do you think like in the next episode we could like delve like more into like how addiction affects our brain?
100%. Possible. That's a great possibility.
And our quote of the day that we took from AI, by the way, is neurons that fire together wire together. So yeah, we hope to catch you in the next one. We hope
See you
that
next
this
week.
wasn't too boring. See you next week.
Next week.